What's good, everyone? It's Noah at Perpetual Shelves, if I could talk, and my cats are fighting in the background. Um, Play fighting. I've been seeing a lot of 20 questions booktube videos, and so I think it's been a few weeks since my last video, so I decided to fill the space with my own opinion. Nobody tagged me, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. I got my phone off in the corner that you can't see, so I'll be referencing that. So to start, the first question is, how many books is too many in a series? Probably a cliche answer, but usually two or three is what I do, is my answer. I'm a college student and I work, so I don't really have time for like long Brandon Sanderson series and like Malazan and all that. That's not even the type of stuff I really read, but we're gonna leave that in. But yeah, that's not really what I typically read. But anything that's longer than a few books is too long for me. I just don't have the time. I get distracted. Number two is, how do you feel about cliffhangers? I don't really get bothered by them. I guess I'll morph the question into, do I prefer the ending spelled out or do I prefer ambiguity? Normally, I don't mind some ambiguity. I think most of the books I like, there's like an element of ambiguity in there. But then some of them, of course, it's not black and white. Some of them, of course, have endings that are spelled out, like he or she dies. Um, they're fighting. Hey, calm down. Um, so number three is hardcover or paperback. To be honest with you, most of the time, generally paperback. If it's a book I really like and say I've like, okay, this book changed my life and I want to pass it down and, I really resonate with the author. If it checks all those boxes, usually I'll search for like older paperbacks, first edition paperbacks. I actually don't own any like nice paperbacks. You can't see it, but all my books are behind me. I think 99% of that is paperback. Hardcovers are nice to look at, but they kind of suck to read in my opinion. I take all the dust jackets off, which to some people might be a sin, but when I'm reading it, I don't want it sliding out of its shell. But yeah, my cats are being bad. But come on, let me get my cat. He being crazy. Come on, cat. Oh, got a big cat right here. Yeah. So number four is favorite books. I can't ever pick one favorite. Life doesn't really work like that, in my opinion. But I got some of my favorite books. There's Butcher's Crossing by John Williams. East of Eden, John Steinbeck. The three Theban plays, or Theban, is it Theban plays by Sophocles? Those are really dope. Don Quixote is awesome. I really love The Great Gatsby. Oakley Hall's Warlock. Lord of the Rings is pretty cool. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I just saw it. Beowulf is pretty dope. It kind of grew on me. Angle of Repose by Wallace Stegner. Wallace Stegner's biography is really good. I want to read Big Rock Candy Mountain. Elizabeth Bishop, Hayden Carruth, Edna St. Vincent Millay. The last few people I named are poets they don't really write books. I think some of them have, but I haven't read them. Number five is favorite authors. I kind of said him. John Williams, Oakley Hall, I like. Wallace Stegner, Elizabeth Bishop. I read a lot of poetry. Elizabeth Bishop and the St. Vincent Millay. Trying to think. I just bought a book of poetry by Lucy Brock Broido. She's cool. I'm trying to think. Let me look at my books. I should have been more prepared for this. Shakespeare. I have like, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. I don't do well with favorites. I just like name names at this point. Um, I do actually like F. Scott Fitzgerald. Some of his books like aren't. I wouldn't say they're like enjoyable to read in my experiences. I mean, they are, but I feel like if I want to just read really good prose, F. Scott Fitzgerald kind of checks the boxes. From what I know, that dude was like making a 40-hour a week job out of like just straight revising, and would do it like constantly all the time. Probably like to a very unhealthy extent, because I know he had drinking problems and I think some marital problems. Um, Number 6, let me turn my phone back on. Number 6 is ideal book length. I don't know, probably like 300 pages or less. I don't have a lot of time being a student and a worker, so I do like to delve into like longer books. I also read a lot of poetry, so some like I have a book of poetry. I think it's Elizabeth Bishop's Geography 3, and it's like, I swear it's like 50 pages, and it's like every poem on every other page. Um, Most Number 7 is most recent book you just couldn't finish. It's not so the most recent book I couldn't finish is Come and Get It by Kylie Reed. It's not a quality concern. I just was like, hey, I have this mood and I want to read XYZ book instead of this. I'll come back to Come and Get It later. The book I'm currently reading is Barkskins by Annie Proulx. I've already read it once. For some reason, there was a hankering in my mind of learning about logging and timber again. So I was just reading that before I started some homework. The last book I recommended, I think I recommended my girlfriend read, I don't know, I think it was, let me double check. I think it might have been like Third or Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. Very odd, because we saw the play performed live, and I was like, hey, I think you'll like this book. She never read it, but I have recommended it. Newest book you've read, as in like publication date, probably The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong. I've read a book that's technically newer, I think, or I didn't finish it, so that don't count. The oldest book I've read might be some of the Shakespeare's plays. I've never read anything that's like just super old. Well, actually, that's not true. Beowulf. That's probably the oldest book that I've read. Beowulf for sure. There's also like Battle of Malden and like really old really old English texts. That's about as far back as I go. Right now, I'm also going through the Canterbury Tales again, so I'll throw that in there. Plays or short stories. I prefer. I don't know. I've never really been like a big short story reader, which kind of sucks because short stories can do more than novels in a lot of times. They're two different things. Usually, it's like poetry, then you go to short story, then you go to novels. That's not a ranking, but short stories usually emphasize craft more than anything, so I probably should like get into them. I kind of dip in and out of certain collections, but honestly, I've been on this weird plays kick. I've read some Sophocles, some Shakespeare, like some Antigone. I really liked Antigone. The like, you know, yeah, I don't know. I've been on this plays kick. Number 13 is buying or borrowing books. I do prefer buying them just because I don't know. I like to be able to like make my notes and annotate a little bit, keep it. Sometimes I buy books and I don't even get around to it, and then I trade them in or sell them back. I do use my library fairly frequently, though. Sometimes the library's due date you can kind of use as motivation to like read the book a little bit faster. because you're like, oh, I only got like, most of the time you get a maximum of, I think, 6 weeks at the local library for me, but you're the first due date is 2 weeks out. And so there's times where I guess, if I'm in like a slump, I can check out a library book and you're like, oh crap, this is due in 2 weeks. And you can kind of blow through it. Books that you dislike that everyone seems to love. I don't remember a book that is like a strong dislike that I know everybody likes. I don't know. This one, there's a little asterisk. So this one I want to read again, but I remember when I first read it, I had just came out of like a time in my life where I didn't really read consistently, and so I think I just didn't get it. But I read Slaughterhouse-Five a couple years ago, and I remember it just being like okay, but part of me doesn't believe that when it comes out of my mouth, because it's like an interest that it's the subject matter is something I know I am interested in. So I think that's like the big sign that I'm due for a reread. But Slaughterhouse-Five, as of right now, is a book that in my head I'm just like, yeah, it's okay. But everyone really, really seems to like it. But like I said, there's a little asterisk there. That's not like my true answer. I just can't think of a true answer. Question 16 is books, or question 15 is bookmarks or dog ears. I use a lot of bookmarks. One time I went to a Barnes and Noble, and there was I was checking out, and the cashier had this big cardboard box in front of him, just like filled to the brim with like random bookmarks that they like give to customers. And I straight up was like, hey, can I just grab a handful of those? And she was like, yeah, go ahead. So I grabbed like a literally like just carrying around like a handful of bookmarks. And so I have a bunch of bookmarks. I do dog ear, like cheaper paperbacks I buy. Like I have a bunch of mass market paperbacks. Usually it's like stuff I'm buying for class. Oh, and I bookmark those and dog ear them because it's like it was like a $2.50 paperback. I don't care. They're mass produced most of the time, obviously. So I do a little bit of both. I do prefer keeping it a little bit clean, but I've dog eared like books I do like and do want to keep, but I'm just like I don't care that much. There's like my book collecting side, and then just my let me just buy this trade paperback and read it to hell. Books you can always reread is question number 16. Anything Wallace Stegner, anything that's very like eco, about the environment. I've read books about trees. I've read books about birds. Things that kind of sometimes some of the nonfiction I can reread. I reread a lot of books of poetry. I've been reading Elizabeth Bishop's Geography 3 for like 6 months, if not more. And it's just, I don't know, books of poetry, I feel like you need that time. You have to sit there. You have to sit there with it and have it be like a constant through line through your life. Anything John Williams, John Steinbeck, a lot of like Renaissance stuff. Don Quixote I could read anytime. Friedrich Recht's Diary of a Man in Despair is really cool. Trying to think. There's some Lord of the Rings passages I really like. Trying to think. I'm actually probably gonna reread Beowulf again. A Canticle for Leibowitz is really cool. That's a book that inspired the Fallout series. Let me pull up my phone again. It keeps dying because it's low battery. Number 17 is can you read while listening to music? I've tried it. The last time I tried it, I remember putting on the Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack. I also play video games. The Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack, because the composer for Final Fantasy games also does. I mean, because it's a game, most of the songs do not have lyrics. There will just be like guitars or some strings. I don't prefer listening to music while reading. Sometimes I've listened. One time I listened to like house music, which was interesting, but that's not my preference. But yeah, I've tried to listen to music. Not my favorite while reading. I do recommend though putting on classical music. That's kind of like a typical answer, but like there's a Japanese composer. I'm forgetting his name right now, but I really like him, and he has a few symphonies I'll throw on sometimes while I'm reading. Um, who's the dude that did the Studio Ghibli soundtracks? I like him. Number 18 is one POV or multiple. I think, honestly, probably multiple. I think most of the books I read have multiple POVs. I kind of like that sweeping, like, everything gets summed up by, like, the omniscient God narrator or POV. Number 19 is a weird question. Do you read books in one sitting or multiple days? I feel like multiple days. Sometimes it takes me like a month to read one book. I feel like it's a little bit, in today's age, it's probably not a typical thing to read a book in one sitting unless it's like maybe a novella or a book of poems or a play. You could probably read some Shakespeare plays in one day, like Macbeth or Twelfth Night. Number 20 is just tagging people. And honestly, I thought about just not tagging anybody and just letting this video breathe on its own. I might throw in a few tags. I have some people in mind. This video was kind of rushed because I got homework to do and really disorganized. But I thought I love a good old questionnaire because I like to kind of like pick and prod at people and see what they like. So thank you for watching.